Hi, welcome to Hope in the Light of Suicide. I'm Tammy. I'm your host and founder and CEO of the Bobby White Foundation. Welcome. This is a really big week this week, but I got to thank some people first because they're why it's a really big week this week. Of course, John with Area 52 Media Group, our producer. We wouldn't be here unless if it wasn't for him in many ways. So we want to thank them very, very much. And if you want to do your own show, please contact them. It's amazing. You can do it remotely. You can do any kind of show you want. Check out Area 52, area52tv.com. You can see what kind of shows are on there. Also, Gaston with the mortgage firm. Excuse me, Everything Mortgages. She's the best. That's all I can say. I tell you every week, and I know for sure because I know her for a very long time, and she's done work for me too. So, and also our new sponsor, Tammy White Galleries and Custom Framing. Glad that we got to be on board too. So, what I was talking about at the very intro is this week, actually, December 3rd was our first day that we taped this show. And it premiered on December 5th, 5 years ago. So, to me, it's like huge because, like I've said before, it took John a really long time, like 10 months, to talk me into doing this. And we started this show. I mean, he wanted me to do it prior to, but it actually came about during COVID because I had just started going out speaking publicly to organizations in January of 2020, which I had just returned from Washington State with COVID. But we had got 4 speaking engagements in after I recovered, and it was before they were telling us it was COVID. But on what was it, March 13th, I was speaking at the Holiday Rotary Club, and everything got shut down the next day. So we couldn't go out and introduce our organization or talk to people about suicide in our community and education and awareness. And so John kept on me, and I finally agreed. And actually, the world works in weird ways because when I agreed to do this, our first day of taping was actually the anniversary of my first husband's death. And so December 3rd of this year was the 38th anniversary of him being killed in South Florida. And a lot of times, I didn't do it this year on Facebook, but often throughout the most recent years, I'll do a PSA. Is that it? Public service announcements? Yeah, PSA. About driving, how driving is a privilege. It's not a right. And when people are working to improve our roadways, and you're driving amidst them trying to do their job and make your life better, be aware and be conscious that they are there. They're not there to slow you down and stop you and interrupt your life or anything else. They're trying to make things better in your communities. And they want to go home at night to their families. That's what happened to me. I took my first husband, Michael, to work one morning and never saw him again because of a careless driver 38 years ago. So I did really pretty good yesterday. Like I said, I didn't post anything on Facebook. partially because I do have a stepdaughter, 2 of them, but I'm only in touch with one of them, and she doesn't mind. She's okay with it, but it does kind of freak her out when she sees her dad's face on there, because she was a teenager when he passed away. We didn't even have any of this stuff when he was killed. So, anyways, but I was reflecting on not only, it was 38 years ago since his death, and 5 years ago that day that we started this show, because of my second husband's tragic death. And we've been doing this for 5 years. And kudos to John and Delynn and Area 52, and, just because we've been doing this show for 5 years with only the sponsorships of those of us involved, meaning Area 52, Delynn Gaston, Tammy White Galleries, the Bobby White Foundation. So we've been doing this for 5 years all on our own to bring this information to you. And we really, really hope someday that more people won't be afraid to put their name in the hat, put their name out there, and support causes like this that are the tough ones, because we need more people like that. You can't go around with your head in the sand. Just because you don't like it, it's never happened to you, you don't know anybody that has taken their life, it doesn't mean it's not going to, because I can almost guarantee you at some point you will be touched by suicide. And it doesn't have to be that way. And that's what we're working towards. Hopefully someday there won't be a need for our show. That would be awesome. I could do other things. But there is still and now, and it's not getting better. But we have to talk. And that's why we're here. To talk and bring you the information, talk about the hard stuff. I mean, it's hard for us because all of us, me, John, Delynn, we're here because we've been affected seriously by suicide. And that's generally what happens, is it's the people that are hurt the most that are out there doing the hardest work. So this isn't easy for us all the time either. I mean, I remember in the beginning of our shows, John couldn't do it for a while. He couldn't do the tech work. Our other tech afterwards, he had to go smoke a cigarette and take a walk. They were difficult. It was difficult shows. We were at a different time in our journey at that time also. 5 years ago, it's been 9 years, so we were 4 years into losing Bobby to suicide. And I had a co-host at the time, Bonnie Snyder, who had lost her grandson, and then 6 months later had lost her youngest son to an overdose, but it could have been a suicide. If you go back to those shows in the beginning to the middle to now, you could see the progression not only of the show, but of us, of me, and how I have changed and grown through the experience, and will continue to do so for the rest of my life. It's not something that is ever going to go away. It's a part of us forever. So I'm just really fortunate and grateful and happy and all the the good words to have John and Delyn in my life. They've been on this journey with me from the very beginning, and in many different ways. And it's, brought us here 5 years later, 9 years, almost 10 years since we lost Bobby to suicide. And hopefully, the information that we bring you and continue to bring you will be helpful, saving one life. And if we can give you some of those tools and encouragement, and just to see, the toll that it takes on people, that maybe you won't, if you're on the other side of that, maybe it's something that you can feel and see and reach out to somebody for help, because seriously, more now than ever, there is help out there. And more now than ever, we are really pushing to educate people, to help people look for the signs. It doesn't take a lot to help a person. I was on a call this week. It was really interesting, but I can't go into the details because some weird stuff happened. But it was really good. It was really informative and really it was just awesome. And actually, the person who presented, I'm going to try and get him on my show. I sent him an email, so I'm waiting to hear back. And that's, I'm like getting ahead of myself. So he made a comment, and one of his comments were, you can prevent suicide just by being kind. And what he meant by that is, we don't know what somebody is going through. You may go to the grocery store and maybe you can't tell. Somebody is in dire straits. They're just on that edge. But maybe if you just smile at them, that could just be the one thing that says, oh, okay, maybe, I can get through this. If you don't, and say, maybe they're being rude or something, and you be rude back, maybe they're at that point, and then they say, oh, it's just not worth it anymore. Nobody cares. That's it. Two different approaches, two extreme different endings. But this person that made this comment, he is actually the he works at the Colorado Office for Suicide Prevention and the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. And Colorado is taking a very, very proactive approach to suicide prevention, in all aspects. They and they've got the coroners involved in helping with this. Their whole thing is they can take data and, what is it called? Data to impact. And so they're collecting more data when it comes to suicide deaths. They have an investigation, suicide investigation death form for the coroners to fill out. And it's like, I think he said 7 or 9 pages. And they actually have funding, and the counties agree to participate in this program. Some counties don't. There's, I know that one of the people on the call must have been from Colorado, a certain county, and asked if, their county participated, and they said no, that they didn't want to participate. But a lot of the counties do, and they actually have funding to pay for this form to be filled out, anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000. And it's not just, okay, the autopsy, the person died by suicide, this is the means, or whatever. They go in depth, and it could take months to complete this. And they have to, at the end of it, they have to write a complete analysis of what happened, how, why. They take their time because the families and friends are involved. And right after a suicide death, a lot of times you don't want to talk about it. And this is especially true with the LGBTQ community and transgender communities, because a lot of times the families, they don't want to admit that is part of it, and they're sensitive to that. It's just the way that they're taking this approach, and they go to every county, and they're talking to the people involved, the sheriff's officers, the coroners, the death investigator, everybody, to really gather this data so that they can figure out what can actually be done. Why are these things happening? What can we do to make a difference? I have a big interest in that, because of what we do here, and of course, all of us here losing someone to suicide. But I lived in Denver right out of high school. I lived there for, it wasn't even quite a year, but it was an awesome experience. I was 17 when I moved there, and but I have friends who live there. I have a friend from high school. Actually, one of my friends that I met here, Teresa, who was a volunteer for the foundation and was on the board of AFSP for Tampa Bay. Her and her husband just moved out to Colorado. One of Bobby's high school friends lives out there. Have several friends, but even more importantly, somebody that I'm going to speak with, the beginning. I think he's going to be down here at the beginning of the year. It's my neighbor's son, Justin. He's one of the head paramedics, or in charge. One of the people in charge of the paramedics for the city of Denver. I think it's for the city of Denver, and he's going to be down here the first part of the year. And so I'm gonna pick his brain, and maybe I can even get him to be on the show. I have to see when he's going to be down here, what days he's going to be, and I really have to get the studio set up and expanded. Oh, that would be a good incentive, wouldn't it? Okay, we'll see how that goes. But anyway, so it's really interesting how. And my neighbor Kathy, she's the one. I mean, she's been on this with me every single day since the day Bobby died. If she doesn't hear from me, she calls. There's mental health checks, everything. But anyway, this is her son, and I want to hear what he has to say, and what he knows about this too, because being the head paramedic in charge of the paramedics in the city of Denver, I just wanted to share that his first day on the job, his very first day as a paramedic, was Columbine. His very first day on the job, he had to respond to Columbine High School. Yeah. So I know he's going to be a wealth of information. So I'm going to say he may be a little shy to do it, but I think I can get him to do it. Can't promise, but we'll see. But anyway, so I thought it was really, really interesting because, and I want to take the time, and hopefully, over the holidays, to do a little bit more research into what is happening at the state level here in Florida. Because every once in a while I hear stuff, but uh, I don't really know what's going on. I know more, what's happening locally, but I know there's stuff going on at the state level, but I just don't know how. I want to compare what Colorado is doing and what Florida is doing, because I see a whole lot more proactiveness in Colorado than I do at the state level here in Florida. I could be totally wrong. I could be, but now that I learned this information, now that yeah, I think it would be good to know. Super interesting. So hopefully we can get both of those two guests. We're working on some others. We're getting ready to line up guests for the coming new year. I can't believe that it's the holidays. Thanksgiving, we just had Thanksgiving. I hope everybody had the best that they could have. I know that, for a lot of us, these holidays are very difficult. They're still really difficult for me. November, it starts ramping up a little bit because both of my husband's birthdays are in November. Then we have Lost Survivors Day and Thanksgiving. This year, I didn't go to family. A friend of ours, he and Bobby worked together for many years. Passed away this past spring, and so his wife doesn't have any family here, and so I had her over for Thanksgiving, and I did the whole spread. I got an organic turkey and made Bobby's dressing. That's in the lower left. I made homemade cranberry sauce, my grandma's rolls, just the whole thing. And it was really good. I think it helped her a lot, not, being alone. She lives on the south end of town and she doesn't like driving a lot. So she ended up staying the night, and we went to breakfast the next morning, and I took her back home. But it took me until Sunday to clean up my kitchen. But in the meantime, I had canned a whole bunch of cranberry sauce and made turkey broth out of the carcass and the leftover wings and bone legs and stuff. Broth turned out awesome. So we have turkey stock for next year. My sister-in-law was supposed to get their organic turkey so that I can make more for next year. I went through a lot of stock this year. I gave 2 quarts to my brother-in-law. That's where I usually go, but I used like 4 quarts. And with just the one turkey, I told my sister-in-law, she returned my jars. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to have enough stock for next year. My niece's mother-in-law ended up throwing the carcass away. And I'm just like, and they're younger, and I'm just like, oh man, they just don't know how much that's gold, So I think I'll end up going to family next year, so I won't use as much stock. So I think we should have enough, but it's going to be really rich, good stock. So it's just been like almost a whole week of cleanup, putting things away, but it was nice. I'm glad that we did it. It was helpful, to her. This is her, her husband's birthday is a week before Bobby's, so she's going through all her firsts. And I promised him that I'd help out as much as I could. Fortunately, we have other people surrounding her too. So it takes a village, you know. That's what I'm doing for her. That's what was done for me. Um, it took a way bigger village for me, though. And I think the guy behind this knows that. But anyways, so now it is, on to Christmas and New Year's. And it's going to be 2026 before we know it. Again, I'm so grateful and thankful that we've worked on this and developed this for the last 5 years. I really see some bigger things coming this year, not only for the show, but for the foundation. And for the foundation, that's going to translate into what we're doing here. We have Art for Hope coming up next year, and this will be the first year, 2026. It'll be our 9th year, but it will be the first year that it falls on International Suicide Prevention Day, which is September 10th. And then, of course, we have our new event, Pasco Walk for Hope, and hopefully, also next year we'll have a Hernando Walk for Hope, which is the county north of us, where we have our support groups. And we are having our support groups. I know I forgot to do that. The second Wednesday in Spring Hill and the third Thursday. We're still on schedule for everything. You can go onto the website. The schedule's there. There it is. So we're still having them. We don't let up, and that's what it is. So I want to share our quote. I've talked about this recently a lot. It is about grief and joy coexisting. It's okay to feel both grief and gratefulness, to find both sadness and joy, to feel both loss and hope. The emotion makes us real. In this holiday, there is truly space for both. I've been working on that a lot, kind of as you can tell, because I've mentioned it a lot in the last couple months. They can coexist. Maybe not at first. It depends on where you're at in your journey. So please make sure you either memorize these numbers, have them in your phone, have them available, note immediately, because you could be that one person to give that one person hope. Thank you.